Sigismund of Luxembourg, the Holy Roman Emperor from 1433 until his death in 1437, a short reign for such a formidable figure. He was also the King of Hungary and Croatia from 1387, the King of Bohemia from 1419, and the King of Germany from 1411. Sigismund is perhaps best known for his initiating of the Council of Constance in 1414, which sought to end the papal schism, reform the Church, and address the heretical teachings of Jan Hus. His tenure was of course marked by conflicts, including struggles to suppress heresy, maintain his authority over the Bohemian crown, and defend his territories against the Ottoman Empire. Hello, welcome to the channel. If it's your first time here, it's good to meet you. If you are coming back, great to see you again. As always, if you like what I do, Patreon link is in the description. Otherwise, help me get to my goal of 10,000 subscribers, which hopefully by the time this video is seen by you, I will be at. But you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Now, without further ado, please get relaxed, deep breaths, and we can begin our biography of Sigismund. Believed to have been born either in Nuremberg or Prague in 1368, Sigismund was the offspring of Charles IV, the Holy Roman Emperor, and his fourth wife, Elizabeth of Pomerania. His mother was notably connected to significant Eastern European royalty, being the granddaughter of Poland's King Casimir III, and the great-granddaughter of Gediminas, the Grand Duke of Lithuania. His name was inspired by Saint Sigismund of Burgundy, his father's favored saint. Growing up in the Bohemian crown lands, Sigismund earned the moniker of Ginger Fox due to the hue of his hair. The bond between Emperor Charles IV and King Louis the Great of Hungary and Poland was particularly strong, culminating in the betrothal of Sigismund to Louis's eldest daughter, Mary, in 1364. Sigismund was only 6, and Mary was even younger at the time, a union intended to expand the Luxembourg family dominions. Following Charles IV's death in 1378, Sigismund inherited the title of Margrave of Brandenburg and was relocated to the Hungarian court. There, he rapidly assimilated, embracing Hungarian language and culture, and aligning his loyalties with his new homeland under the guidance of King Louis, who designated him as the successor to the Hungarian throne. Of course, he had to look the part too. He reportedly took on the dress and even quite a few of the mannerisms of the Hungarians. By 1381, the age of 13, Sigismund was dispatched to Krakow by his guardian and half-brother Wenceslaus, the King of Germany and Bohemia. They sent him there to learn Polish and familiarize himself with the region and its populace. Additionally, Wenceslaus assigned him Neumark to improve communications between Brandenburg and Poland. Although Mary ascended as Hungary's monarch, Sigismund also aspired to the Polish crown. However, the Polish nobility resisted the notion of a German ruler, and the potential of a union with Hungary. A significant rift among the Polish landlords, those from Lesser Poland opposing those from Greater Poland over the next monarch, led to the Lithuanian faction prevailing. Consequently, despite the support from the lords of Greater Poland, Sigismund lost the Polish crown to Mary's younger sister, Jadwiga. She later entered into a marriage with Jogaila of Lithuania, consolidating her position as queen. Following the death of her father in 1382, Mary ascended to the throne of Hungary, and Sigismund married her in 1385 at Zolium, which is modern-day Zvolen. Their union was solidified by the Treaty of Győr in 1386, where Sigismund was recognized as Mary's future co-regent. But tragically, in 1387, Mary and her regent mother, Elizabeth of Bosnia, were seized by the rebellious members of the House of Horvat, which included Bishop Paul Horvat of Makva and his brothers John and Ladislav Horvat. During this tumult, Sigismund's mother-in-law was tragically killed, though Mary herself was later freed. In the wake of these events, Sigismund secured the backing of the Hungarian nobility and was officially crowned King of Hungary on March 31st, 1387. To fund his claim and stabilize his reign amidst ongoing struggles for the throne, he pledged Brandenburg to his cousin, Jobst, the Margrave of Moravia, in 1388. Sigismund's rule was marked by near-constant conflict, which only abated through his alliance with the influential Székely-Garay League. This alliance, however, came at a cost. Sigismund had to cede substantial royal properties to garner the necessary support, effectively placing much governmental control in the hands of a council of barons. Sigismund's reign was continually challenged by factions within the kingdom. In the southern regions, between the Sava and Drava rivers, the Horvathes, supported by King Tyrtko I of Bosnia, who was also Mary's maternal uncle, proclaimed Ladislaus of Naples as king. It wasn't until 1395, with Nicholas II Garay's efforts, that this rebellion was finally put to rest. Sadly, Mary passed away in the same year while pregnant. To mitigate the resistance from Hungarian nobles, and to manage his rule more effectively, Sigismund occasionally sought the counsel of foreign advisors, a decision that was met with disapproval. He was compelled to assure that the nobility that grant the lands and official appointments would be reserved for Hungarians alone, though he made an exception for his close buddy Stibor of Stiborix. Sigismund's tenure saw multiple instances where he was detained by nobles, only to regain control with the military support of allies like Garay and Stibor. In 1396, Sigismund orchestrated a significant crusade against the Turks, responding to their expansion to the Danube, catalyzed by Hungary's prior vulnerabilities. This military campaign, spurred by Pope Boniface IX, garnered extensive support within Hungary, captivating the imagination and the zeal of Hungarian nobility, who rallied in large numbers. The call to arms also resonated across Europe, drawing volunteers from diverse regions, with a notably substantial contingent from France, led by John the Fearless, son of Philip II, the Duke of Burgundy. Sigismund's formidable force, comprising 90,000 men and a flotilla of 70 galleys, initially captured the city of Vidin. He then positioned his troops outside the fortress of Nicopolis. This strategic move prompted Sultan Bayezid I to lift the siege of Constantinople and confront Sigismund's forces with an even larger army of 140,000 troops. The ensuing Battle of Nicopolis, which took place between September 25th and 28th, 1396, ended in a disastrous defeat for the Christian armies, marking one of the significant losses for European forces against the Ottomans. After the defeat, Sigismund navigated his way back through the realm of Zeta, now Montenegro, where he recognized the local lord, Durad II, granting him the islands of Hvar and Korsela to continue resistance against the Turks. These islands reverted to Sigismund's control following Durad's death in April of 1403. The fallout from Nicopolis led to considerable discontent among the Hungarian nobles, destabilizing Sigismund's reign in Hungary. In the wake of this turmoil, he shifted his focus towards securing his succession in Germany and Bohemia. His childless half-brother, Wenceslaus IV, acknowledged him as vicar general of the entire empire. Despite this recognition, Sigismund could not prevent Wenceslaus's deposition in 1400, after which Rupert of Germany, Elector Palatine, was elected as the German king. Upon his return to Hungary in 1401, Sigismund faced severe political instability. He was imprisoned once and dethroned twice within that single year. And during the same period, Sigismund was forced to support a revolt against his half-brother Wenceslaus IV, leading to the latter's capture. This allowed Sigismund to assume control over Bohemia for 19 months before he finally released Wenceslaus in 1403. I suppose he's learned his lesson by now. Let's let him go. At the same time, in Hungary, a faction of nobles pledged their allegiance to Ladislaus of Naples, the last monarch from the Anjou dynasty. These nobles ceremonially swore loyalty by placing their hands on the relic of Saint Ladislaus of Hungary in Novivarad, present-day Oradea. Ladislaus, the son of the murdered Charles II of Hungary, and a relative of the deceased King Louis I of Hungary, captured Zara in 1403. However, he halted his military efforts shortly thereafter. This cessation of advancement triggered a conflict with the Republic of Venice, after Ladislaus had previously sold the Dalmatian cities to Venice for 100,000 ducats, before returning to his own territories. In subsequent years, Sigismund worked behind the scenes to block Ladislaus' ambitions in central Italy, forming alliances with Italian cities opposed to Ladislaus and exerting diplomatic pressure to stymie his efforts. Sigismund's rule required him to travel, and quite frequently, mainly to manage all the different affairs across his ever-growingly diverse realms. As a result, he was forced to convene the Diets in Hungary more often than his predecessors, to ensure governance continuity in his absence. To further manage these prolonged periods of absence, he established the role of Palatine as the chief administrator of Hungary. In 1404, Sigismund implemented the Placitum Regium, a decree mandating that no papal bulls could be declared in Hungary without the king's approval. A papal bull was effectively something that came down from the papacy, kind of like how we have, let's say if you have the Parliament of the European Union making a rule about something going on in France or Germany. It's a government outside of your own government deciding what is good and what is bad for your people. And, well, the papal bulls were always dealing with religious matters in this way. Well, throughout his reign, he also significantly enhanced the royal Buda castle, transforming it into what was likely one of the largest Gothic palaces of the late medieval ages. And it's still there, and it's gorgeous. Around 1406, 2 years later, he expanded his family ties by marrying Barbara of Kelsch, who was the daughter of Count Hermann II of Kelsch. This alliance was intertwined with familial connections, as Hermann's mother, Catherine, of the House of Kotromanic, and Mary's mother, Queen Elizabeth of Bosnia, were either sisters or perhaps adoptive sisters. Well, whichever way it was, the marriage served its purpose. It strengthened Sigismund's political networks within the region. Sigismund's rule in Slavonia was marked by his determined and sometimes ruthless approach to governance, notably during the bloody Savor of Krzewki, an organized killing of the former Croatian Ban named Stefan II Lakvi, and a whole lot of his followers for good measure. While he managed to establish firm control from the river Sava northwards, his influence was notably weaker to the south. In 1408, Sigismund led a significant military campaign, commanding an army described as nearly 50,000 crusaders against Bosnian nobility, culminating in the Battle of Dubor. This battle resulted in the massacre of approximately 200 members of the Bosnian nobility. Despite the military success, the campaign failed to achieve lasting political objectives, leading to a Hungarian retreat and the gradual escape of the Bosnian crown from Sigismund's influence. In terms of his possessions in Serbia, he faced the continuous threat of Ottoman expansion, as pretty much everyone in the Balkans was facing at the time. To enhance the security of the southern Hungarian borders, he forged a defensive alliance with the despot Stefan Lazarevich of Serbia. In 1403, in a strategic move, Sigismund granted the northwestern Serbian territories, including the city of Belgrade and the Banat of Marxo to despot Stefan. In return, Stefan pledged his loyalty to Sigismund, serving as a steadfast vassal until his death in 1427. Following Stefan, his successor, George Brankovic, also maintained allegiance to Sigismund and eventually returned Belgrade to Hungarian control. Through these alliances and politics, Sigismund effectively secured the southern borders of his kingdom. Following his military success at the Battle of Dvor, Sigismund established the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order dedicated primarily to halting the advance of the Ottoman Empire. The order's membership was largely composed of Sigismund's political allies and key supporters. Notably, figures such as Nicholas II Garay, Hermann II of Kelce, and Stibor of Stiborix. This order also attracted some of the most significant European monarchs of the time, enhancing its prestige and influence. In his capacity as king, Sigismund was a proponent of economic development, taking measures to encourage international trade. Thus, he abolished internal customs duties, implemented regulation on tariffs for foreign goods, and standardized weights and measures across his realm, facilitating easier and more efficient trade practices. His ascension to the role of King of the Romans followed the death of King Rupert of Germany in 1410. Despite his half-brother Wenceslaus's existing claims, Sigismund was elected by 3 of the electors on the 20th of September 1410. However, this election was contested by his cousin Jobst of Moravia, who was chosen by 4 electors in another election held shortly afterwards on the 1st of October of the same year. The dispute was resolved finally with Jobst's death on the 18th of January 1411, clearing the path for Sigismund's re-election on the 21st of July 1411. His coronation, however, was delayed until the 8th of November 1414, when it was finally conducted at Aachen, solidifying his position as the King of the Romans. In 1410, Sigismund orchestrated alliances with the Teutonic Knights in order to challenge Władysław II of Poland. He agreed to an arrangement wherein, after a truce expiring on St. John's Day, 24th of June by the way, he would initiate a southern attack on Poland in exchange for 300,000 ducats. This military maneuver was entrusted to Sigismund's loyal confidant, Stibor of Stiborix, a notable figure of Polish descent from the prominent clan of Ostoja, which opposed the election of Jagiello as the king of Poland, so he of course had his own reasons for siding against the Poles. While Stibor, who had become one of the most powerful men in late medieval Europe, much due to Sigismund's patronage, held the title of Duke of Transylvania and owned extensive lands, including about 25% of what is today known as Slovakia. Among all of these lands, it included 31 different castles, 15 of which were strategically positioned along the 406-kilometer stretch of the Var River, all bestowed by Sigismund. So basically, he was loaded. As tensions escalated into warfare between Poland and Lithuania, allied with the Muscovites and the Teutonic Knights, Sigismund capitalized on Stibor's diplomatic acumen to secure financial advantages. Although the Polish faction included several negotiators from the Ostoja clan, distant relatives of Stibor, the familial ties did not avert the conflict. In July 1410, a coalition of 22 western states rallied against Poland at the Battle of Grunwald. Following the Polish-Lithuanian triumph at Grunwald, where Stibor's forces had briefly engaged by attacking and burning Nowy Sącz before retreating to Bekov Castle, the Teutonic Knights were compelled to pay a substantial reparation to Poland. Better luck next time, I suppose. Though remarkably, through Stibor's expert negotiations, Sigismund managed to borrow the entire sum of silver paid in reparations by the Teutonic Knights from King Vladislav II under remarkably favorable terms. Well, this web of diplomacy and familial connections led by Stibor and the clan of Ostoja, adhering to Sigismund's political strategies, casts a little bit of doubt on Sigismund's genuine commitment to the anti-Polish alliance, and it suggests that his involvement may have been more financially motivated than politically. In 1412, a grand tournament and diplomatic conference were held at the court of Buda in Hungary, hosted by King Sigismund himself, and everybody was invited. This significant event was attended by an impressive gathering of European nobility, all of the who's who of the time, including King Władysław of Poland and, debatedly, either King Turtko II or Stefan Ostoja of Bosnia, though that is debated whether they did show up. Well, the tournament boasted the participation of 2,000 knights from across the continent, as far away as England, demonstrating the vast scale and importance of the meeting. The event also served as a political summit, attracting not just royalty but a wide array of European aristocracy and dignitaries. Among the attendees were significant figures such as Witold, the Grand Duke of Lithuania, Serbian despot Stefan Lazarevic, Austrian Dukes Ernest the Iron and Albert II, and of course the Grand Master of the Teutonic Order, Heinrich von Plauen. And, of course, no need to mention the invite of Sigismund's best buddy, Stibor. The delegation was extensive, including a cardinal, a legate, 3 archbishops, 11 bishops, and numerous other counts and dukes, totaling representatives from 17 different countries. The tournament itself was quite the spectacle, with highlights including victories by a knight from Silesia named Nemche and an Austrian page, both excelling in the joust. Further enriching the international flavor of the meeting, envoys from Jalal al-Din, the Khan of the Golden Horde, also attended, underlining the broader political intrigues involving alliances against common foes such as the Teutonic Order and potentially the Ottoman Empire. The presence of Bulgarian knights, likely from the court of Prince Frugin, a vassal of Sigismund, showed once again the diverse assembly of participants across Christian and non-Christian territories of Europe. Accompanied by a range of festivities and entertainments, the gathering in Buda not only showcased the chivalric culture of the time, but served as this very colorful nexus for medieval European diplomacy and alliance building. Nothing makes friends better than going and watching a show, having a meal, clicking glasses together, and they probably all got extremely drunk on the evenings. But that's just my educated speculation. Now, from 1412 to 1423, King Sigismund actively engaged in military campaigns against the Republic of Venice. During this period, he seized the opportunity presented by the challenges facing anti-Pope John the 23rd to secure a commitment for convening the Council of Constance in 1414. The aim of this was to resolve the ongoing Western schism in the Church. Sigismund played a significant role in the council's proceedings, which successfully ended the schism in 1418. Among these religious debates, the council controversially executed the former Czech reformer Jan Hus for heresy in July of 1415, an act that Sigismund is often accused of facilitating, despite having guaranteed Hus safe passage and protesting his imprisonment. Notably during the council, when a cardinal attempted to correct Sigismund's Latin, he famously retorted, and this is hilarious, "I am the king of the Romans and above grammar," a statement that led Thomas Carlyle to later nickname him Super Grammaticum. Throughout these years, Sigismund's major political maneuvers included forging an alliance with England against France, and attempting to stabilize Germany via a League of Towns, though this failed due to resistance from the princes. In a pivotal act in 1415, he granted Brandenburg, which he had reclaimed following Job's death, to Frederick of Hohenzollern, the Burgrave of Nuremberg. This significantly elevated the House of Hohenzollern's status in Germany. Following the French defeat at the Battle of Agincourt, Sigismund began to pivot his alliances from France to England. This shift was solidified with the Treaty of Canterbury on the 15th of August, 1416, establishing a combined defensive and offensive pact against France. The treaty was a culmination of diplomatic efforts between Henry V of England and Sigismund, and contributed to the eventual resolution of the Papal Schism. This alliance also led to Sigismund being honored with the induction into the Order of the Garter, marking close relationship between him and Henry V. Upon the death of Wenceslaus IV in 1419, Sigismund became the titular king of Bohemia, a position that proved nominal for many years, as it took 17 years for the Czech estates to formally recognize him as their monarch. Despite his titles as King of the Romans and King of Bohemia enhancing his status on the European stage and positioning him as a key figure in Christendom, these roles brought him no real power, and were a dreadful strain on his finances too. His substantial influence was primarily felt as the King of Hungary, where he had successfully established firm control and improved governance and order. Back in Bohemia, he was widely distrusted due to his perceived betrayal of Jan Hus, leading to widespread unrest when he announced his intent to continue the war against the heretics. His military efforts against the Hussites, however, were unsuccessful, culminating in 3 failed campaigns, despite support from his staunch ally Stibor of Stiborix, and later Stibor of Bekov, whose forces managed to keep the Hussites at bay from the kingdom's borders. Concurrently, the Turks resumed their attacks on Hungary, further compounding Sigismund's worries. During the Diet of Nuremberg of 1422, Sigismund collaborated with German princes to organize a dual military strategy against the Hussites. The first contingent aimed to lift the siege at Karlstein Castle, while the second was tasked with defeating the Hussite field army. Both attempts failed disastrously, with Jan Žižka securing decisive victories at Kutná Hora and Nemecký Brod, marking a significant setback in the initial efforts to quell the Bohemian heretics. Well, despite these military defeats, the anti-Hussite alliance continued to expand, drawing support from Upper German princes and cities, some distant from Bohemia, indicating a widespread concern over the Hussite threat. In January of 1424, this alliance solidified with the formation of the Union of Bingen. This coalition included not just the Rhenish princes, but also the Elector of Saxony and Sigismund's loyal ally, Margrave Frederick of Brandenburg. The union emphasized mutual assistance and cooperation to counter the Hussite menace. Sigismund's influence in Germany, as well as throughout the Holy Roman Empire, was significantly limited by his lack of domestic power base, commonly referred to as Hausmacht within the Kingdom of Germany. This deficiency made his rule highly dependent on the cultivation of key alliances and the engagement with the empire's entrenched associative political culture. It's been emphasized by modern historians that Sigismund's ability to exercise power was intricately linked to these established mechanisms and relationships within elite networks. Thus, his reign showed that while he had a direct, authoritative command in many areas, he adeptly utilized these associations to orchestrate substantial collective actions, such as the campaigns against Duke Frederick IV of Austria-Tyrol in the 1410s, and of course the campaigns against the Hussites in the 1420s. Despite his absence from the core territories of the empire for extended periods, Sigismund's strategic alliances ensured that he could still influence and direct significant imperial activities. His success was not solely a product of his personal political acumen, but also resulted from the advantageous partnerships and the effective use of the empire's associative structures. These relationships were crucial in mobilizing the empire's princes, nobles, and towns towards these common goals. One of the most pivotal alliances was with the Elector of Bamberg, Frederick I, and also Albert of Habsburg, who married Sigismund's daughter, Elizabeth of Luxembourg. The marriage not only secured Albert as Sigismund's son-in-law and heir, but also significantly bolstered the Habsburgs' position, leading to their prominent role in German and European politics. This alliance catalyzed the ascent of the Hohenzollerns and reinforced the Habsburgs, who would inherit Sigismund's connections to Hungary, Croatia, and Bohemia. In 1428, Sigismund once again led a military campaign against the Ottomans, but it yielded negligible outcomes. 3 years later, in 1431, Sigismund traveled to Milan, where on the 25th of November he was ceremoniously crowned King of Italy with the Iron Crown. Following his coronation, he stayed in Siena for a period, engaging in negotiations for his impending coronation as Holy Roman Emperor, and seeking to persuade Pope Eugenius IV to recognize the Council of Basel. Sigismund was thus crowned emperor in Rome on the 31st of May, 1433. After achieving his objectives with the Pope, he returned to Bohemia, where he was officially recognized as king in 1436, although his actual influence remained somewhat limited. Around the time of his coronation, Pope Eugenius IV initiated efforts to form a new alliance against the Ottomans, influenced largely by an ongoing Albanian rebellion that had started back in 1432. In 1435, Sigismund sent Phrygian, the Bulgarian noble, to discuss potential alliances with the Albanians. Early in 1436, he also sent Daoud, a pretender to the Ottoman throne, to bolster these diplomatic efforts. However, the defeat of the Albanian rebels later that year effectively halted these plans for a coalition. Sigismund's death occurred on December the 9th, 1437, in Moravia, which is now part of the Czech Republic. He had expressed a wish to be interred next to King Saint Ladislaus I, in present-day Oradea, Romania, whom he deeply revered as the epitome of a perfect monarch, warrior, and Christian alike. Survived by his second wife, Barbara of Kelce, Sigismund left behind only a daughter, Elizabeth of Luxembourg, who was married to Albert V, the Duke of Austria. Albert, later known as Albert II of Germany, was designated as his successor. His passing thus marked the end of the Luxembourg line, as he had no sons to continue his dynasty. Well, thank you very much for listening. A bit of a shorter one today, but that's all right. I'd like to thank my top-tier patrons, and his Stark Factory, JC, Jeffrey, and Susan. Thank you very much, the four of you. If you would like to support the channel in ways beyond the norm, then there is a link in the description, and you will find the method to do so. But regardless, I sincerely hope you've enjoyed this biography of Sigismund, the Holy Roman Emperor. And you know that I have plenty more in the chamber, ready to go. 2 videos every day, at least for the moment. We'll see how long that lasts. Well, good night, everybody. I'll see you next time.